Hello and welcome to another episode of Top 10 Bikes with me, Dave Lee Travis. This week we're at the junction between mad motocrossers and raging road racers. Yes, it's the Top 10 Supermotos of 2002. Hurtling in at number 10 is Husqvarna's SM610S. Husqvarna, or Husky as they're more affectionately known, is one of the oldest names in the world of motorcycling. They've been making bikes since 1903, originally in Sweden but more recently in Italy as part of the Cagiva group. Don't be fooled by the name, it's about as Swedish as pasta. History lesson over, onto the bike. A punchy single-cylinder four-stroke engine powers the SM610S. It packs plenty of grunt to get the back wheel hanging out should you so desire. Now with all that oomph you need good stopping power as well. This is provided at the front and rear by Brembo. Marzocchi front forks and Sachs rear monoshock allow you to float over any lumps or bumps our British roads throw at you. This bike is essentially for rider pleasure and not for carrying passengers. However, should some unsuspecting soul decide to give it a pop for a short hop, they'll be pleased to find rubberized finger molds under the rack. It's tall, light, flickable and it's fast. What more do I need to say? Let's see what our panel made of it.
Husky's have always had a reputation for building lunatic supermotos and off-road bikes, and this is no exception.
This is in-your-face supermoto. This is it. Rides up to you and slaps you around the face with a wet kipper. It looks fantastic. You've got to climb the wall to get on top of it, and it's a great bike.
So the Husky scored 68%. Stomping into the number 9 slot is the CCM R30. History lesson number 2. CCM first emerged in the early 70s from Bolton. Their first competition bikes were made up from BSA B50 parts. The CCM R30 now uses the oil-cooled 644cc Suzuki engine. Its predecessor uses the Rotax lump, which wasn't as reliable as one would like. The single-cylinder engine has twin carbs and twin spark ignition. This gives better power output, cleaner running and improved economy. With only a 10-litre tank, you need the best fuel economy you can get. All these supermotos are tall, and the CCM is no exception. So how does 865mm grab you? But it is available in the short person version with 815mm seat height. Still, no cruiser, but at least gives you a fighting chance of getting your leg over. If you're feeling patriotic, give the R30 a try. It's powerful, good-looking and British. So, chaps, what do you make of it?
CCM R30 is one of the newest bikes to come out of the CCM factory up in Blackburn. A nicely styled bike, still quite agricultural when you look at it compared to KTM's, but ride it and you'll like it.
It's ballistic. Loads of style, it handles. I do like CCM, as I say, they've put a lot of effort in to trying to get the bikes to look right, to try and get the right profile in the industry. Some people say maybe they could look after the customers a bit better, but we all could. I'm sure things slip from time to time, but for my money, I want an R30.
Up until recently, the CCM factory were using old Rotax engines which were designed years and years ago. Now they're using engines from Suzuki, and they've really turned their bikes around. They're reliable now, they look okay, and they go quite well.
The CCM R30 scored 70%. At 8 is the first of our beasts from the former Eastern Bloc. It's the MZ Mastiff. MZ have finally ditched their smoky two-stroke road bikes and produced this crazy supermoto. Who would have thought? It's got Yamaha's well-proven XTZ 664 5-valve single engine, KTM twin radiators, Gramica brakes, Paoli forks and white power shock. the MZ is a well-equipped contender in this class. Now, some would say that the MZ isn't using top-notch parts, but then they're not charging a top-notch price. At a grand less than its competitors, it's very good value, maybe even enough change left in your budget to pay the insurance. Styling is not the Mastiff's strongest point. It's a bit like Mad Max meets Monty Python. The twin headlamps make it a touch geeky looking, but some may find this endearing. It's an affordable and practical machine that's simple and easy to run. If a Supermoto is what you fancy and you're on a budget, give the rugged-looking Mastiff a whirl. Let's hear from our panel.
The MZ Mastiff, like the Bagheera, just a bit of a wacky styling to it.
Very much the same as the Bagheera, I'm afraid.
Our panel gave the MZ Mastiff 71%. Our second little Eastern German is in at number 7 spot. It's the MZ Bagheera. Yes, I know, they've named their bike after a character in the Jungle Book. There's just no accounting for taste. The standard Bagheera is an out-and-out enduro bike, but today we're looking at the Bagheera Street Moto, which can hold its own in this class. Now, this is not a bike of little proportions with a whopping seat height of 900mm. Even the low seat option is an incredible 850mm. It is, however, available in 33 brake horsepower learner legal version. So, if you're a long-legged learner, how about putting the Bagheera on your shopping list? Like its Mastiff stablemate, it's a grand less than the competition. This might help ease the strife caused by the less respected MZ badge. Skoda, anybody? So, what did our panel have to say?
Horrible looking thing. I'm led to believe they go quite well, but you just wouldn't want to go out in your garage of a Sunday night and have a look at it.
The MZ Bagheera, a bit of a mishmash, a bit of a low price entry-level Supermoto. Nice enough, but there's no frills to it.
The MZ Bagheera scored 72% by our panel. Over the Alps and into the number 6 slot is the KTM 640 Duke. The majestic Duke has slightly unusual styling compared to the others in this class. The brave designers at KTM have gone for twin stacked headlamps, giving the Duke a very insect-like look to it. The 4-valve single pumping out 55 brake horsepower will soon have you grinning from ear to ear. This bike is about having sports bike fun at licence-friendly speed. Learning to chuck this tall Austrian around is an experience in itself. Do you try to get your knee down, or do you do your Joel Smets impression? The KTM is as agile as they come, with smooth power delivery from 5,000 RPM. The white power suspension gives superb damping and rider feedback. The Brembo brakes are powerful enough to get the back wheel off the dirt, and the engine packs enough punch to make the KTM a real wheelie meister. Keeping our wheels firmly on the ground, let's go to our panel.
Yeah, the Duke's been revised, and I think it looks better than ever at the moment. I just think it's got lots of comfort, it's got lots to offer. It's not full out Supermoto, but for somebody who wants to draw themselves into that category of bike, but know that there's more on offer, then the Duke's going to repay them for their investment.
KTM 640 Duke. Now this is the bike that really introduced us to Supermoto here in the UK. Before we just had things like Yamaha XT600s, which a few people have put road wheels on, but this was the first proper Supermoto for the road. Had niceties like proper road gear, lovely styling, do 100 mile an hour in ease and comfort. So really, if you want something that's going to be an alternative to your sports bike that always threatens to lose your licence, this is the bike for you.
This is probably my favourite Supermoto. They're great for messing around on and going to the shops. You can learn to wheelie them. You just wouldn't want to do a long journey.
The KTM 640 Duke scored 74%. That's the end of part 1, but don't disappear as we have more of these lovelies in part 2. Welcome back to part 2 of Top 10 Supermotos with me, DLT. The number 5 slot goes to the ever-popular Swede, no, not Ulrika, it's the Husqvarna FS 650E. When Husqvarna was bought out by Bagheera, a rebel bunch of Husqvarna engineers decided to go their own way. The results of the fruits of their labour is the Husqvarna. This good-looking Supermoto is a little bit different. The 4-stroke single has a unique counterbalance system which helps reduce vibrations and those pesky gyroscopic forces. With white power suspension and Behringer brakes, the Husqvarna glides along and stops as sedately as you choose. The Husqvarna is as tall as its competitors with a seat height of 870mm, a tiny 9-litre tank and an anorexic weight of only 113 kilos. With a reasonable price tag of £5,100, this waif-like funmobile could be just what your garage needs. Tuck your darling sports bike away for the winter and let this little Swedish number show you how to tackle the wet, slippy winter roads. Guaranteed grins.
Made in Sweden, I think. I can't quite remember. This Supermoto is very, very useful on and off the track. But again, you wouldn't want to go very far on it.
The Husqvarna FS 650E scored 76%. In the number 4 spot is the lesser-known Vert Amati. If you have £6,000 burning a hole in your pocket, then maybe you want to splash out on this little Italian beauty. The Vert Amati brothers are renowned engine tuners who decided to hook up with exotic bike maker Bimota. The result is the hand-built Vert Amati Supermoto. The 501cc 4-stroke single has electronic ignition, not to be confused with an electric start button. To get this engine running, you have to do it the old-fashioned way, you have to kick-start it. But even that's different, with the kickstart needed to be kicked forward instead of backwards. Those in the know say that you do get used to it quickly. The hand-built engine has gear-driven cams, titanium valves and a cassette gearbox for those of you who are seriously contemplating racing. Weighing only 116 kilos, the Vert Amati feels like a lightweight 2-stroke. Fuel tank is under the seat, which gives it a low centre of gravity but also means you need to remove the seat before refuelling. With a short wheelbase and a revvy willing engine, the Vert Amati is a real wheelie monster. More of a raceback than a road bike. Be sure you want something this focused before parting with your hard-earned. What do our panel think?
When you first see a Vert Amati like this, it looks like there's not enough to it. There's big holes everywhere where you can look through the frame in so many different places. The engine looks quite small, all the airbox is tucked away, but they go very, very well, but they're very temperamental as well. You can have the kind of relationship with this bike where you're going to love and hate it in equal measures.
But they look quite nice, and I think they've just started to be brought into this country in the past 6 months.
The Vert Amati scored 77%. Another unusual suspect is in the number 3 spot. Yes, it's the Vert SMRC, Vore purchased production rights from Vert Amati and, with some help from Bimota, went on to make what is almost a mass-produced version of the Vert Amati, although 80 bikes per month is not quite what Honda consider mass production, but for this class it's quite big numbers. The engine, like the Vert Amati, needs to be kick-started but has a decompressor to help you with the task. Full floating brake calipers, front and rear, will soon haul its 122 kilos to a halt. As with others in this class, it has a very small fuel tank, only 9 litres. The Vore SMR is the out-and-out race version. It even comes with slick back tyre and a full-blown race tyre on the front, neither of which are road legal. If you fancy this mud monster on the road, you need to go for the SME 530, which is similar but with the luxury of electric start, headlamp and those oh-so-important road-legal tyres.
Vore are quite a new name to this country, but have been around in Europe for a long time.
The Vore scored 79%. The Brits are back. The CCM 644DS has captured the number 2 slot. Sharing the same 644cc engine as the previously mentioned R30, the 644DS takes biking versatility to a new dimension. DS stands for Dual Sport, which means that in this guise it's one of the finest Supermoto tools available. But spend 15 minutes changing the wheels and you've got one of the finest trail or enduro bikes out there. Whether you want to pop to the shops, enter the Paris-Dakar or just about anything in between, this could be the bike for you. Just don't try touring on it. The hard seat and small fuel tank will have you heading for home before you get to the ferry. Front and rear suspension are adjustable for compression and rebound and incorporate ride height adjustment. The stopping power is provided by Brembo at both ends and the whole plot sticks to the road via Pirelli rubber. This bike isn't for the shy retiring type, as it's only available in bright yellow or bright silver, and it's sure to attract attention wherever you decide to take it. Let's hear what our panel made of it.
Bit of a workhorse, this one, because we've got the option here of having a low seat as well, so the Dual Sport is very dual in more ways than one. Does a good job. Some might say it's a top job really, because it can be a jack of all trades.
This bike, as the DS stands for, is Dual Sport. It means it can go off-road and on-road. Get 2 sets of wheels, you can have double the fun.
I know a lot of people race them, especially people like David Jeffries, so they can't be that bad.
The CCM 644DS scored a fitting 82%. We have once again almost reached the coveted number 1 spot. Let's have a quick recap from 10 to 2. At 10 is the Husky SM610S. At 9 is the first of the Brits, the CCM R30. Muscling in at 8 is the MZ Mastiff. From dogs to panthers, it's the MZ Bagheera at 7. In at 6 is the KTM 640 Duke. The tempting Swede is at number 5, the Husqvarna FS 650E. At 4 is the Italian beauty, the Vert Amati. In at 3 is the other Italian, the Vore SMR C530. At 2 is the CCM 644 Dual Sport. Pipping them all to the number 1 spot is the KTM LC4. The KTM LC4 breezes into the number 1 spot. KTM have been making top quality off-road bikes since 1955, so they must have got the hang of it by now. More recently, they've branched out into road bikes, and next season they plan to take MotoGP by storm. Well, the 125 class by storm. The LC4 has been described as a mad dog due to its manic power delivery. The brake and clutch feel are second to none, but due to a high state of tune, the big single can feel a bit lumpy at low speeds. You'll just have to ride it hard then. The road-going LC4 has been civilised with electric start and a comparatively large fuel tank of 12 litres. Don't panic, a more race-biased version is available with kickstart only and a mere 9 litres of fuel. Seat height is an astronomical 955 millimetres, but once on board, the long travel suspension will compress and give you a fighting chance of getting your feet down. At a shade under $5,500, it's not cheap, but for someone who wants this type of bike, it's undeniably good value. Here's our panel of experts.
KTM LC4. Go to any event on the British Supermoto calendar and you'll see more KTMs on the grid than anything else. What does that tell you? It means they make very focused but very good bikes, LC4 being one of them.
I'm told by some off-road people that they can be very, very useful.
It's manic, but you can only be manic for so long. One big failing with this one is it's got a very small fuel tank, because when you play with it, you do want to play longer, and unfortunately the fuel runs out. So you could say, oh, if it's that good, why isn't it number 1? It's number 5 here, but it's great fun. If you've got sort of $5,500 to spend on putting a smile on your face, then this will paint a really big one.
The KTM LC4 scored 87%.
Well, thank you. Well, on behalf of KTM UK, I'd like to thank Men & Motors for this award. And it's also good to see that Supermoto is now seen as a discipline in the motorcycle market. I think where KTM have done so well this year is all our motorcycles are effectively ready to race as they come out of the crate. So that you can just get on that bike and go and race it if you so wish. But it's good to see that the discipline has been acknowledged. So thank you very much indeed.
Well, that's it for this week. Do join me next week for another Top 10 Bikes.